no question that 2010 will see an incredibly important segue moment for the world's economies. The world's economies, shaken as they were last year in 2009 with a credit crisis that brought us to the brink of a Great Depression, has to be addressed in 2010 in terms of continuous recovery. Albeit that recovery has started, I would say to you that we haven't addressed the critical issues that underpin a recovery. So, for example, the US consumer and the US's consumer's role in demand has to be readdressed. So demand has to be created elsewhere. I believe the Asian economies, in particular China, are addressing these sorts of issues with government-driven stimulus-based demand. Government-driven stimulus-based demand varies by country, and each country has a different portfolio of economic agendas. And the most crucial to me as an industrialist is the advanced manufacturing agenda. In other words, as we build a planet, a human society for the 21st century, we have to address the technologies that are breakthrough that will make us a sustainable race on this planet. Environmental and economic matters and the word sustainability have now gestated to the point where it's a full view of both parameters that all of us have. I rarely now interact with people in whatever forum they're in, government, private partners, partnerships with NGOs, with communities, where people don't marry the two parameters and have a common approach. I think people have understood in general that the human race's footprint on the planet has to be addressed, that the concept of what used to be called sustainable development now embraces the emerging world with the developed world, that we all share the same air, we share the world's water resources, the oceans, the rivers, we share all of the environmental impacts, and that we have to be judicious in our use of those resources that we've been endowed with, so that there's a sustainability of our society on this very fragile planet. The chemical industry's paradigm shift after over 120 years of existence is upon itself again. It renews itself every 20 or 30 years to the problems that are in front of it at that point in time, and has always found a way to innovate to new space. And I think the innovation agenda of the chemical industry and many of the companies who are leading it, such as mine, are ready for that challenge. And in fact, almost to rebrand and redefine what the term chemical industry even means. We've always had topics such as climate change and environmental sustainability, water issues as top of mind. I think those topics will stay top of mind, but in particular, putting in place a new lens, a new global economic lens, the recovery of the global economy, and keeping our long-term future in mind as we put in place those policies that sustain our future is what I believe we will address at Davos this time. Rethink, redesign, rebuild as a theme can have another revolution. My organization has revolutionized itself to be ready for rethink, redesign, and rebuild. I think viability and long-term viability has had to be rethought in the context of 2009 as we all suffered a massive correction on what matters in terms of a sustainable enterprise, the economics of the world, the funds flow, the liquidity of the world, the financial regulation and reform required of the world. And the institutions that exist within those funds flows, such as mine, have had to rethink, redesign, rebuild themselves. And we've done that. We were doing it prior to 2009. We accelerated it through 2009, and we're emerging wiser and stronger with a great focus on how we can sustain it in the context of a redefined world. I think the theme is right where it needs to be as we revolutionize institutions such as ours. The Dow Chemical Company has, throughout its entire history, had the privilege of doing business globally across all borders by having a common set of values and a common set of codes of conduct that we all subscribe to. And these are the highest order of doing business, and the highest order of human conduct. And we always take the best of the best wherever it may be in the world. And as we develop and evolve and exhibit these behaviors, help each other understand how to seek higher ground, that evolution for corporations is very necessary, because multinational corporations at the end of the day are a true United Nations. The United Nations that is organized like a business. And obviously mentioning the United Nations is we have to learn from organizations such as the United Nations and UN Global Compact on how to get the role of corporations in societies around the world integrated into those societies around the world through having the highest levels of conduct expressed through those organizations and other institutions. As the correction to the global economy occurred in 2009, and as we all looked at our go-forward plans and we understood what went wrong and what we needed to do to protect ourselves in the future and how to mitigate risk, it became quite obvious that certain parameters needed to be reinforced and reinvigorated. And clearly one of them is that the public and private sectors need to come together and put agendas on the table that focus priorities facing us all, and not just driven from an economic agenda, but really truly a sustainability agenda that addresses the world's resources, and the world's resources that allow us all to do business on this fragile planet include water and energy, food and agriculture, and of course the outcomes such as health. These are the pressing issues of our economies, and they transcend borders. It doesn't matter if you're an emerging nation or a developed nation, these are the same issues. And rebuilding our global economy, rebuilding our local economies in the developing world, the developed world, raising the standard of living for millions and millions and millions of people around the world, and truly growing in a sustainable way is the agenda that public and private sectors have to come together on and really solve in this next decade. Certainly starting in this next year, starting with the G20, starting with organizations around the G20, and certainly business enterprises like the Dow Chemical Company.